Hi guys, it's Mr. Rowlands here. Welcome back to another PHP tutorial. In today's tutorial we are going to look at what a if statement and a else statement is. So I'm going to work this just like I did with one of my previous tutorials where we looked at variables and constants. First we'll go for a presentation that compares the two and helps us understand them, and then we'll go into Notepad++ and have a go for ourselves. So first of all, what is an if statement? It is the ability to control the flow of a program. The if statement allows you to control if a specific part of code is run based upon whether or not a condition is true or false. So technically it is using the data type boolean. The possible outcomes for the true value of a boolean is 1, true and on. The possible values for a false value within a boolean is 0, false and off. So the easiest way to remember this is just like a light switch. So when the light switch is on, that is true. When the light switch is off, it is false. When the light switch is on, it is 1. When the light switch is off, it is 0. And then obviously when it's on, it's on. When it's off, it's off. Okay? Okay then. So in order for you to understand an if statement, I am going to use a flow diagram. For those that you haven't used a flow diagram, it basically shows the steps in which a program takes in order to complete the goal. Okay? If you are doing a controlled assessment for GCSE or A level, you will probably be asked to complete one of these or something similar. Again, please don't send me messages asking me to send you an example of a live piece of coursework. This example is made up by myself and is completely independent. It is there to help you understand the skills required to complete your controlled assessment. So, the three symbols you are going to need to know are these three here on the right. The first one, this indicates the start and the end of a program. So obviously one would go at the start and one would go at the end. The yellow one here, this is to indicate a decision within the program. That decision might be influenced by a user, or it might be an internal one within the code. Okay, so that could be a if statement. Okay, we'll see that just shortly on the next slide. And this one is an action based on a decision. So once a decision has been made, an action will happen based upon that result. So feel free to pause the video at this point and have a go at making the flowchart yourself using these keywords. I know that that's not very detailed, but it's just a basic example. Please don't add loads and loads and loads in, because you'll just end up getting confused. Leave that until after you've finished the video and you've got a slightly better understanding. Okay, so I'm going to the next page now. Make sure you've paused if you want to. Okay then, so here is my completed flow diagram. So like I said, the start process is there and then the end process is here. And as you can see, we have got one decision in the middle just here. And then we've got an action based upon that decision. So it asks the user, would you like sugar? Yes or no. Okay, so yes, so that technically is true. So an action has happened, and then after that it stirs the coffee. If the user says no to that decision, then simply it'll just stir the coffee and no sugar will be added. Effectively, if I was to add another word into this flowchart, such as tea, obviously we would have another decision, which would be here, wouldn't it? Decision would be, would you like tea or coffee? And then obviously different routes would go off depending on what the user had selected. Okay, we're going to take this one step further now. We are going to use a virtual tea machine that I have made to try and help you understand how an if statement would work in a modern day example. So in front of you I have made a tea machine. I want you to imagine that you're in a canteen and you're thirsty and you'd like a drink. So it says please select a drink. Okay, and actually I quite like tea, so I'm going to select tea. These are variables here. Okay, you learned about those in the last video. So watch what happens to the variable when I select tea. As you can see, the tea bags went down by 1. It went down from 5 down to 4, and as you can see, that tea bag has been added to my mug. Okay. So effectively, what has just happened here? If I skip to the next page, you'll be able to have a look. In fact, we have just run a if statement. If tea is true, echo, you selected tea. Then echo, sugar and milk, question mark. And then the variable tea bags is going to have 1 taken away from it. So obviously, you know as well as me, there would be a BR in the middle of there to separate the two lines. But that is the basic code that is running. Okay, so what I'm going to do on the next slide is I'm just going to point out where it relates. So as you can see at the top, look, we've got the variable tbags, and the variable tbags is storing the value 4. Okay, and then if I just bring up the code from the previous page, you'll see that the tbags there, look, it has had 1 taken off it. So obviously it was 5 originally, with -1 is now 4. Okay, so if t is true, in other words, here the user selected t, you'll see that the t is true, because in fact, yes, they selected t. And then the echoes that we learned about in one of our very first tutorials, we were actually echoing out a message. You selected tea, okay, echo sugar and milk, so another question there. Okay, so obviously that is asking the user to make a decision, as we saw in the flowchart. I hope that helps. That is a basic if statement. That is as easy as I can explain that. Okay then, now we've understood that section there. Do I want sugar and milk? Well, actually, yeah, I'm quite partial to 1 sugar, so I'm going to click on sugar. Okay. And as you can see, it says you added sugar. Okay, and as you can see, the sugar has dropped into my mug, or is dropping into my mug. So what I'd like you to do at this section here is I'd like you to have a think and see if you can think about what the if statement would be for the sugar. So take the one we've just had on the previous page and see if you can adapt it to suit the adding of sugar. Feel free to pause the video at this point. I am going to go on to the next slide that shows the answer. So write down yours on a piece of paper and then we'll compare, see if you got it right. Okay, then I'm going to the next slide now. So if you haven't paused, make sure you have now. There we go. It says if sugar is true. So in other words, if this button here is true, echo you added sugar and then take 1 off the sugar. So you'll have noticed that the sugar will have gone down by 1. In fact, it went down from 10 down to 9. Okay then, so on to the next one. Would I like some milk? So obviously I'm going to click this button here because in fact I would like some. And as you can see, it has added some milk now to my drink again. So again now, let's see if you can write an if statement for adding some milk. Again, you'll need to pause at this point and see if you can write it down. Okay, I'm going to the next slide now, so last warning, make sure you have paused. Okay, there we go. If milk is true, echo, you added milk, and then take 1 off the milk. So as you can see, the milk went down from 6 down to 5. Well, that's great then. So we've managed to go all the way through now, and hopefully you'll have understood the basics of an if statement, and you should have been able to relate them to the different variables and the true and the false. So obviously now, our drink is ready, so feel free to take my drink. I can go and have a drink, lovely jubbly. So after we have done that, we are now going to take a look at what a if-else statement is. Okay, so remembering back to what an if statement did, okay, they both are very similar and they both feed from each other. The ability to control the flow of your program, okay, so the else statement does that as well. So an if-else statement executes some code if an if condition is true and another condition if the condition is false. Okay, so potentially if the user hadn't selected T, okay, well then it's false, isn't it? And this will become a little clearer in the next couple of slides. So just think now that you've drunk your drink and you're now making a drink for a friend, okay, but your friend doesn't like tea. Your friend is actually quite impartial to a cup of coffee. Okay, so again, make note of the variables and watch closely what happens. So this time I am going to have a cup of coffee. Okay, and as you can see, this time the coffee went down from 3 down to 2, and then this time coffee has been added to the mug. So what would be the if statement for this? Let's have a look. Okay, so originally the if statement for T was if T is true, echo you selected T, and then would you like sugar or milk, tea bag. And then we've adapted this to if coffee is true, echo you selected coffee, would you like sugar or milk, and then the coffee -1. Great, so now technically I've got 2 if statements. I've got this one and I've got this one, but technically there is a better way you can do this by using the if else. So I want you to remember these two, the tea one and the coffee one, and then look closely to what I've done here. Okay, so I've said if T is true, do this, else it's going to do this. Obviously there is only 2 possible outcomes, T or coffee. So if T isn't true, it's obvious here that coffee is true. So it's going to do this one, isn't it? Okay. So if T is true, do this. If T is false, do this. Obviously, if T is false, coffee's got to be true. This tea machine only does tea and coffee. This example wouldn't work for a machine that does tea, coffee, and hot chocolate, obviously. Okay? I hope that helps. Okay then, so let's give that a try now ourselves. So we're going to open up Notepad++ and I'm going to give that a go. Okay then, before we head into Notepad++ and start coding in PHP, make sure in XAMPP you have Apache turned on. Again, my SQL's turned on in mine. We're not using it, but I'll just leave it on by force of habit, so it's up to you. Okay then, so what you need to do for me is open Notepad++. As you can see already, I have created a PHP start tag and a PHP end tag. We are going to use our T machine examples. The first thing we're going to need is the variables for the machine stock. Now, they were in the presentation that we looked at, so I'm just going to pop the presentation up again so you guys can grab a copy. There we are, so there are tea bags are 5, coffee is 3, sugar is 10, and milk is 6. So let's just quickly create those variables. So we've got tea bags, and I always like to do them in lowercase because it avoids mistakes, equals 5. Then we've got coffee equals 3. Then we've got sugar, make sure you put your $ on the front, equals 10. And then we've got milk equals 6. Okay, so I've done those now. So those are my variables for the machine stock. Now, normally, when you go on the internet and you use a website that asks questions like this, okay, or you use a machine, it uses like text boxes or buttons or radio buttons or tick boxes to allow the user to interact. Now, I'm not going to teach that in this example because I think it would be too much, it'd be a brain overload. So I'm just going to teach you how to interact with them, the variables, by just manipulating the variables in the code. So potentially, next lesson I will be showing you how to use these. So we've got radio buttons, we've got drop down boxes, we've got tick boxes, and we've got text boxes. And I'm going to show you how to set the value of a variable from one of these type of boxes. Okay, but obviously tune in for the next video for that. For today we're just going to use variables, which I've already said. Okay, then if we're just going to use variables to test this, just to avoid confusion, I'm going to call this user interaction, and I'll put for now. Okay, and then here I'm going to have a variable that is called drink underscore selected is tea. Okay, and then I'm going to copy that variable twice, and then I'm going to put here contains sugar. Oh dear, my typing's not good today. And contains milk. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to set these equal to, remember our Boolean values we talked about? True. Make sure you close the line or else it won't go any further. And I'm going to set this to false. Okay. And I'm going to set this one to false. Okay. So now we've got our interaction variables that eventually will become text boxes, and then we've got our machine stock. Okay. So down here now I'm going to come down and I'm going to create the if statement for creating a drink. Okay, so the first thing we're going to say is we're going to say if, I'm going to open some brackets. Okay, these are the normal brackets, not the ones with the little bobble in the middle. And we're going to say if drink selected tea equals true. Now I'm going to cover the double equals now, so you understand what it is. Okay, if the drink selected equals true. Now, what the difference between the double equals is and the single equals is this. Okay, single equals. This means a variable with the name of drink selected tea. Okay, is equal to the value true. Whereas this says if the variable named drink selected tea is equal to true. So it's checking whether or not it's equal to true. It's not setting it, it's checking if it is equal to true. Okay, and if it is, what we're going to do is we're going to create some brackets, and inside of those brackets we're going to say, can you echo out you selected T. Okay, make sure you close the line so we don't get a crash. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to save that. So we're going to go to File. We're going to go to Save As. Okay, and mine was already there, but I'm going to do it from the start so you guys don't get lost. C drive, examp, htdocs. Mine's Mr. Rowlands, depends on what you've called yours. Now I'm going to call mine if example. You can call yours anything as long as you go to that when you go to the local host. Okay, and I've saved that. So now if we go to the internet now, like so, and then we type in local host / Mr. Rowlands / if example.php, you will notice that it's come up and I've got a syntax error on line 13. So let's have a look at line 13. Can anybody spot the problem? Ah, there, look. I'm glad that's happened because I see this loads in the classroom. It said it was on line 13, but obviously line 13 couldn't run because it wasn't expected. It was expecting a close first. So make sure you don't make that mistake. Let's give that a try now. That's why it's always good to keep checking your code as you go through to avoid any errors. Line 18, we've got another one. So let's have a look at line 18. We've got an error here somewhere. There, look, I haven't closed the if statement. Okay, so it's always good to keep checking that you haven't got an error as you go through. It's a lot easier to find them as you progress rather than try and find them all at the end. As you can see now, it says you selected T. So great, but what happens if this was false? Give that a save and run it again. Nothing comes up. That's because this only runs if this is true. So let's put an else in here. In other words, if this wasn't true, it will do this. So in other words, if drink selected T is true, do this. Else, in other words, it's false, do this. Echo you selected coffee. Okay, let's try that. Make sure you put a close on, and we'll keep checking this as we go through to avoid mistakes. There we go, that works absolutely great. Lovely. So what we've got it doing so far is we've got an if statement working and an else based on something being equal to true. So now I want to manipulate the variables as well. So what I want to do is I want to say here, I'm going to take the variable T. Okay, T bags. Okay, T bags. And what I'm going to say equals itself -1, because obviously if they've had a cup of tea, the tea bag stock's gone down. Then we're going to need to put a break in here, look. So we're going to need to put a BR, make sure you close the line, and then we're going to echo out tea bags. Like so. Let's give that a try. Just keep checking for mistakes as we go through, because it's quite easy to do. Nothing's happened. Now the reason that is because a lot of people make this mistake as well. I've made a change to this code, but that's still false. So in order to test it, that would have to be true, wouldn't it? Okay, so let's give that a try. There we go. You selected tea bags, then it's just got a random 4. Okay, we know what the 4 is, but the user doesn't. So here we could add the machine has 4 tea bags left. Then we put a dot in there like so. Okay. There we go. It looks a lot neater and it works great. So obviously on the else down here we want to do something very similar. So this time we want to say if coffee equals coffee -1. Okay, so we're taking 1 off the coffee because obviously if this code runs, they've obviously had a drink of coffee. Okay, and then we want to say a break, and then if we take that bit of code, then we'll just manipulate it. So it's all about reusing code rather than like so. I don't know why I've put number 4 in there, but randomly. And then obviously we'll there we go. So we've got 4 tea bags left. Mistake that I'd made, I wrote 4 in there. And now if we change this back to false and save this, give it a whirl, we've got 2 left. So that's working absolutely great. Okay, so have a go at that, see if you can get yours working. Then what we want to do down here is we want to see whether or not they've had sugar or not. So obviously it'd just be another if statement. Have or has the user had sugar. So what we want to do here is we want to say if the drink contains sugar and it equals true, we want to say echo, and then we want to say sugar added. Else we want to say no sugar added, like so. Okay, so right then, let's give that a try. At the moment sugar is set to false. Okay, we're going to need to put a BR in here, otherwise it's going to end up sitting on top. I'll show you first actually, so let's run that. Look, no sugar, so obviously we've got a problem there, so we're going to add a BR just inside of here to stop them sitting on top of any other statement that's already run. Okay, let's give that a try. There we go, no sugar added. So obviously now if I come up here and I change sugar to true, okay, sugar added, and it's working absolutely fine. So obviously now we could literally just copy, whoops, we could literally copy that statement there and rework it for milk. And again, as you can see, I am taking my time to make sure that all of these are right. How is milk spelled at the top? Capital M, just double check that it's right, there we go. If milk equals true, and then here we'll say milk added, or no milk added. And then if we go back inside of here and give that a run, there we go. As you can see, this machine is now starting to work quite well. So obviously now the possibilities are absolutely endless with this now. So you could go away now and you could get it to the milk to go down. You get the milk to go, the sugar to go down as well. And then you could even do things like, after a certain point, you could get it to say if the tea bags are less than 3, tea bags need reordering. So I'll just do that one as the last thing for you now. So let me just check what the tea bags are currently. So if T is true, so here we'll set this to true, so we can just double check that this will work. As an example, so let's run that look. So at the moment the tea bags are 4. So what we will say here then, we'll create one last if statement just as an example, and we'll say if tea bags is less than 4, less than 4, sorry, what do we want to happen? Well, we want to echo out order tea bags. Okay. Else, whoops, I've just deleted the close tag, and then I haven't closed that there. Look, it's all about, there's lots of mistakes you can make throughout this. It's very easy. You have to keep checking. Even someone that's been coding a long time still makes these mistakes. Okay, so, right, let's have a look then. Obviously we're going to need to put a BR in there, otherwise these will be sitting on top of any other code that's already run. Okay, so I'm going to run that now. Let's have a look. And we've got a syntax error on line 76, so let's have a look. And there we go, look, I didn't close that line. Let's go try that again. There we go. Stock level for tea bags is okay. But obviously now, if I change that now to, let's say, 8, so if it's less than 8, the stock level's not okay, okay, order tea bags. Okay, so that is pretty much, in a nutshell, how you use if and else statements. Now, I have left in the mistakes that I've made as I've gone through, because obviously I see these in the classroom quite a lot. So obviously I'm hoping by seeing my mistakes and me correcting them that you'll become more efficient in reading code and spotting syntax errors. Okay, I hope that helped. Thank you very much.